All right, let's dive into a really fascinating story from Genesis chapter 13. It's a story that actually starts with a blessing that's so huge, it becomes a crisis. It's all about two men, Abram and his nephew Lot, who end up facing a choice that doesn't just test their relationship, it completely changes their destinies forever. So the story opens, and you might expect a problem of scarcity, right? But no, it's the exact opposite. It's a problem of abundance. This verse from Genesis just sets the scene perfectly. Abram has come back from Egypt and he is incredibly wealthy. We're talking massive herds of cattle, silver, gold, the whole nine yards. But as we're about to see, this incredible blessing is actually the very thing that's going to spark a major conflict. So, how in the world does being super rich lead to a crisis? Well, it all starts with what you could call a problem of plenty. And here's the logistical nightmare they're facing. It's not just Abram who's wealthy. His nephew Lot is also running a huge operation with his own flocks and herds. They've become so successful, so prosperous, that the land itself, the grazing pastures, the water, it literally cannot handle both of them anymore. They've totally outgrown their resources. And this is where things get personal. This isn't just some abstract problem on a spreadsheet anymore. The pressure is boiling over into actual fighting. Their employees, the guys watching the herds, are going at it over who gets to use what pasture, who gets to use which well. The family business is starting to crack right down the middle, all because of its own success. So with things at a breaking point, Abram knows he has to do something. And what he does next is a huge turning point in the story. We'll call it the generous offer. Okay, this is a truly remarkable moment. You have to remember, Abram is the patriarch. He's the elder, the leader of the whole clan. By every cultural standard of that time, he absolutely has the right to choose first. But instead of pulling rank, he does the complete opposite. He decides that peace is more important than privilege. He literally hands the power of choice over to his younger nephew, Lot. It's just a radical, incredible act of peacemaking. And just like that, the ball is in Lot's court. Which brings us to the climax of this whole situation, Lot's choice. So what does Lot do with this amazing offer? Well, the text is very clear. He lifted up his eyes. He looks, he scans the horizon, and he sees the plain of the Jordan. And it's described as this lush, green, well-watered paradise. I mean, it's the obvious prime real estate. And his entire decision is based on what looks good to him right then and there. And this is where you really see the stark difference between these two men. Lot's choice? It's all based on sight. It's based on what looks like an immediate win. Abram's offer, on the other hand, was based entirely on generosity. He wasn't even thinking about the land. He was focused on saving his relationship with his nephew. You're watching two completely different value systems collide in one single moment. And there you have it, the result. Lot takes the deal. He chooses that whole fertile plain for himself. But you gotta notice that final little detail in the verse. It's so important. He pitches his tent as far as Sodom. See, his choice of land came with the choice of neighbors, whether he really thought about that or not. And the Bible doesn't leave us hanging, wondering what those neighbors were like. Immediately, right after telling us where Lot settled, it drops this bombshell. The men of Sodom weren't just a little rough around the edges. They were, quote, wicked and sinners exceedingly. It's some seriously heavy foreshadowing. Lot chose the best-looking land, but he completely ignored the moral black hole he was moving next to. So, Lot is off to his prosperous but very dangerous new home. What about Abram? What happens to the guy who is left with the less appealing land? Well, that brings us to our final section, the divine promise. The very moment Lot leaves, the whole story snaps back to Abram. And his incredible act of selfless generosity is immediately met with a direct message from God. So while Lot is settling in next to a wicked city, Abram is receiving a divine confirmation. The contrast could not be more clear. And wow, what a promise this is. God tells Abram to lift up his eyes and look around, north, south, east, and west. And here's the beautiful irony. All the land he can see, the very thing he was willing to just give away to keep the peace, is now promised to him and to his descendants forever. He gave up the choice of a portion, and in return, he was promised the whole thing. And the promise wasn't just about real estate. God tells Abram his descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. Think about that. It's a metaphor for something so vast you can't even count it. And you have to remember, at this point in the story, Abram doesn't even have one child. He's being promised a legacy that's literally beyond his wildest imagination. And that really gets to the heart of this entire story, doesn't it? It leaves us with this really profound question. Lot made his choice based on what he could see, the green grass right in front of him. Abram, on the other hand, acted on generosity and faith, and he was rewarded with a promise, something unseen, but so much greater. So it really makes you think, in our own lives, which view are we prioritizing? What we can see right now or what we are promised? It truly is a faithful choice.